So the video game industry, okay, the video game industry cannot quit microtransactions. The fact that two of the largest video game companies in the United States, Electronic Arts and Take-Two Interactive, now make the overwhelming majority of the money from live service games, subscriptions, and in-game purchases, according to the recent earnings reports. Microtransactions are purchases that make inside a game using real money, and they show up as subscriptions, virtual currency, and character customization options, amongst other examples. Fast travel. Okay. Popular live service titles such as Fortnite, Call of Duty, Warzone, and Clash Royale were built around the revenue model. Game publishers must provide updates throughout the certain game life cycles to retain the player's attention, which is where the term live service comes from. Gamers pay for these updates through season passes or subscriptions. Now, gamer backlash from the early attempts and in-game purchases caused the video game industry to shift its approach to these subscriptions and building purchasable content. Now, you got to remember, 2017 was like the boiling point when Battlefront 2 came out, and people were like, get those microtransactions out of our game. We don't want the loot boxes. We don't want all this stuff. Boiling point. People went to court. People went to try to change rules. Then they had to show that the loot boxes were left. Well, the company had to look and go, well, they don't like the microtransactions for loot boxes. You like microtransactions, so let's give them something else. Well, what can we do? Well, instead of making these 10 items that we were going to put in the game, like Spider-Man does, right? They put all the cosmetics inside the game. They're like, what about if we, out of the 30 cosmetics that we have, why don't we put the shitty ones inside the game, and then we'll put the other 20 that are really badass, and we'll slow drip them over the next year and a half so people come back and buy the cool cosmetics. But goddamn right, that's what they're doing. Okay? It says, quote, the industry has really moved more of what they call Battle Pass system to some kind of packaging of seasonal content, said Matt Piscatella, executive director of video game, how do you say that, Sorcana? Those systems have found much warmer response because I think people are finding that they are getting more value and more reliable value for their money. Let me read that again. So those systems have found much warmer responses, right? There you go. Instead of the loot boxes, right? Much warmer reception of, well, yeah, because now if I want to buy the cosmetic, I don't have to pay $10 to see if I get a chance to get it. I just paid $10 for the actual cosmetic, right? So it's more reliable value for the money. In-game spending has become a high-stakes issue in addition to lucrative business. Electronic Arts live service operations made the company $5.6 billion in the most recent quarter, according to the company's latest earnings report. Okay? Obviously, we have another article we'll talk about in a second, right? But the FIFA series, or now FC series and Madden, right? Same game every year. All they do is the roster update. But microtransactions go lower so you can get that 99, that 1% chance to get the 99% guy on your team. Okay? Epic Games, which was created popular Fortnite franchise, took Apple to court over an in-game payment system that the developer released inside Fortnite in order to bypass Apple's App Store fees. Okay? Now think about this. Epic's like, we want to make money like Apple. We can't. So we got to sue Apple to try to open up the Pandora's box so we can get in there so we can make just as much money as them. This is for the players. We're for you, players. Our microtransactions will get to you. Don't worry. They'll get there. In Europe, app stores and so-called loot boxes are a major focus on tech regulatory. Okay? So let's watch this video. Let's watch this video here and see what they have to say here.
Two biggest video game makers in America now so their money not from people buying games, but on subscriptions and spending within those games.
In fact, Electronic Arts and Take-Two Interactive both make a staggering 75% of their money from what's called microtransactions.
75% of their business is microtransactions.
You've seen examples of this revenue generation from top titles like GTA 5, NBA 2K, and Fortnite. They come in the form of battle passes, membership programs, and virtual currencies. This is all happening despite intense backlash from consumers and critics, and as the cost of developing these games reached staggering levels.
I just find the trend so tacky and wary.
Unfortunately, I'm maxed out of volume and also volume on here, so unless I can... Oh, there it goes. Thought it was all the way up.
Some from toe to tip, but it ain't going anywhere because it sells. In fact, it has been selling.
The revenue model conversation has generated so much attention that parties are now trading high-stakes lawsuits over the issue. Epic Games' Fortnite created its own in-game payment system for microtransactions, and that caused Apple to remove the mobile app from the App Store, ending in a lawsuit and several court proceedings. Apple now has to give its users access to rival payment systems and app stores in the European Union.
There was quite a bit of pushback from especially the very dedicated gaming community, and rightly so in a lot of cases. You know, a lot of those models, the early models, it was tough to get the things you want.
So here's how microtransactions and live services took over the video game.
This right here, this is a problem, right? Helldivers Max, not saying it's right. Helldivers Max is $20, okay? For right now, anyway. Okay, we don't know what they're going to do in the future. But right now, it's $20. $100. You could spend more money in the game itself than a full-price game for a free-to-play game.
Game industry, and why gamers really can't do anything to stop it.
How has microtransactions took over the video game industry?
Microtransactions are any virtual transaction you make inside a video game that costs real money. In Take-Two's NBA 2K, you can purchase virtual currencies for various prices. Buying the Battle Pass in Fortnite each season, or approximately every 3 to 6 months, grants you new skins as well as the ability to purchase its own virtual currency, V-Bucks. The highest-selling console game of all time, GTA 5, allows gamers of GTA Online to purchase a GTA Plus membership.
Here's the thing about Grand Theft Auto. I don't like the currency inside of Grand Theft Auto 5, but if I purchase that game, if I purchase Grand Theft Auto, at the time $60, right? Back in 2013, okay? You bought the single-player game. You could still play that game. There's no thing bought within that game itself to make that game experience different. There's no microtransactions in the single-player aspect of the game, okay? The free add-on that they had, now you could buy this separately of just the online, but there's no the entry point to get to the online is buy the single player game. You have the single player game, and then you can get into the online, and then by continuing playing online, they sell you stuff. But the game itself, there's nothing in there, right? Nothing in there.
For $5.99 a month.
Prior to, say, 2012, you're looking at 98% or more of content spending being done physically. That all began to change when people started to get more connected. And that allowed publishers to do new and different things beyond just selling a disc, including, you know, not just digital downloads, but also things like subscription services.
In 1971, the video game market was only the computer space arcade game and took in $1 billion in revenue.
Check that out. 1978. $1 billion, and it was just the arcade.
Fast forward to today, and the market's worth $183 billion with various platforms and thousands of games.
Where are we going to be? Where are we going to be if it went from 1 billion to 183 billion in my lifetime, right? In my 45 years, okay, it went from 1 billion to 183 billion. Where's it going to be in 45 more years where hopefully I'll be 90 years old and I'll see it. I'll be like, holy Christ, did they just say a gajillion dollars?
Mobile gaming has played a massive part in the expansion of the industry.
What's driven the growth of the gaming market has been the growth of smartphones. Now in 2023, you've got 80% of the world's population using a smartphone. So,
I'm sorry, what did he just say?
The gaming market has been the growth of smartphones. Now in 2023, you've got 80% of the world's population using a smartphone.
80% of the world population is using smartphones. Yeah, but mobile's not a big thing. No one's going to play on mobile, right, guys? You guys always tell me no one's going to play on mobile.
So, we just have, 6 billion plus people with a device that is capable of playing, some kind of game on it. So we're just able to reach so many more people with games today than back in 2007.
The live service models within these mobile games are the cash cows, and now the industry leaders want to bring more and more of that model to console and PC gaming. Live services refers to game publishers' work to continuously provide new content throughout the game's life.
Right, the other 20% is the fucking children under 13 that don't have, right, that don't own a Don't own one.
which popular titles like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and League of Legends have.
80-year-old white men who are worth billions are probably not playing mobile games, but their grandkids are. And when their grandkids are billionaires, they'll still be playing mobile games.
And what Michael Packner just said there, okay, I say this all the time. You and me might not play mobile games, but you know what? My 9-year-old kid plays on mobile. And when he's 9 and then becomes 12 and then becomes 15 and then becomes 20 and becomes 30, what do you think the conditioning is, right? We used to know about arcades. We used to go to arcades and play arcades, and then they brought it, the box in our house, and they conditioned us that games are in our house. Now they're conditioning the kids now that mobile's the way, right? We could be in denial all you want, right? Mobile gaming is the future. These are facts.
Games.
And certain executives are banking on it. Take-Two Interactive President and CEO Carl Slatoff and Strauss Zelnick were paid in total $72 million in 2022 after revising their compensation packages to include for bonuses for hitting microtransaction goals.
The microtransaction trend isn't going anywhere, as Electronic Arts brought in $5.6 billion in its latest earning results, highlighting the resilience of the...
Garrett Green says mobile is a completely different market, though. Listen, it is until it isn't. Okay? Arcade was a completely different market than consoles until it wasn't. These are also facts.
this evergreen business model.
Incorporating spend opportunities in paid games affect.
Doesn't mean that the only future, console gaming, still exists. Two different things. Sure, the record player still exists. The VCR still exists. You could still watch those things. But the market has moved on. The market has moved on. Movie theaters still exist, but the bigger percentage watches movies at home. The bigger percentage doesn't buy DVDs. The bigger percentage doesn't buy vinyl. Still there. They still exist. You're absolutely correct.
Bends the user because they're like, I already paid $70 for the game. Why do you want to charge me more?
This frustration and backlash to in-game purchases is nothing new. It brought controversy in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion with the infamous horse armor for $2 back in 2006, and it still is today.
Traditional gamers would say, you know, I want to buy a great game in order to play that game. I don't want to feel like I'm being nickel and dimed, you know, along the way.
After negative feedback before Electronic Arts' release of Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2017, the company decided against its own iteration of in-game purchases, which many labeled as pay-to-win.
Gamers who buy games have this code, which is kind of not very well thought through, but they hate pay to win.
The Battlefront 2 release was also marred by loot boxes, which are packages of content gamers can buy to enhance their experience via costumes or playable characters. Loot boxes weren't just an issue for gamers. Hawaii's legislature wrote a bill to ban them from video games in the state. Whole countries have altogether...
Right. And because we bitched about the loot boxes, they fixed it. They said, oh, we got you. We won't do loot boxes anymore. We'll just charge you in the game itself.
Ban loot boxes. They believe the loot box has too many ties to gambling.
It's the chance factor. So they have to very clearly state the odds of getting something good, which is generally between 1% and 2%. You know, so in other words, something that costs $1, but you have a 1% chance of getting it, you'll spend $100 to get it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You know, that you got to do 100 draws. You might get lucky and spend 20 and get lucky, but you got to spend.
There are recent games that have bucked the wave of in-game purchases, mainly console games with a focus on playing a specific role, like IGN's 2023 Game of the Year winner, Baldur's Gate, and PlayStation's blockbuster Spider-Man series. Several of IGN's Game of the Year winners do not have aspects of in-game purchasing outside of downloadable content available for users to buy. However,
you take a single-player game and make it into a multiplayer game. People will spend.
Roic says, you don't think it hasn't moved the console as well? Look at Madden. They put more effort into the pay card system than they do in the actual football game. Right, Roic? That's what I said earlier. I said FIFA and Madden just rinse and repeat the same game. They don't make the game better. They just update the roster for that one chance to get that 99% player on your Madden team or your Ultimate Team.
the backlash towards in-game purchases isn't isolated to just gamers on Reddit.
In the UK, Parliament published a response to a call for evidence in July 2022 detailing exactly how game companies can protect children and adults. Those rules include things like loot boxes should be unavailable to children unless they're enabled by a parent or guardian,
Agreed.
and all players should be aware of spending controls to support safe and responsible gambling.
Agreed. Or, as I like to say, be a parent.
The game industry's response created the UK Interactive Entertainment to enhance player protections in line with the government's response.
Showing what the odds are to get the items that you really want, are, is a really good one. So we still see those mechanics being used quite a bit across the video game industry, and there's just a lot more transparency around it. And of course, very specific markets have outlawed very specific forms of the loot boxes. So I think the regulations are actually in a pretty good place right now.
Several countries have passed laws with varying degrees of regulation. For example, Italy, South Korea, and the Netherlands require probability disclosures, while an outright ban against loot boxes exists in Belgium. As a result, gaming companies have modified their transaction model over time.
The industry has really moved to more of a what they call a battle pass system or some kind of packaging of seasonal content. And that's found a lot more in terms of a warm response than the
Battle passes are still bad, but at the same time, they're better because at least it puts the option in the player's choice of it's cosmetic. And not only do I pay the $10, I get more currency, so then it kind of puts me back into their Emporium or microtransaction store, where I'm not throwing $100 at something and then it goes away, right? A lot of the battle passes go away. If they go to more of this warmer model where battle passes come in and there's no FOMO, where they don't leave, like a Helldivers, like a Halo, like I'm not sure if I think Suicide Squad's doing it as well, right? I don't think it's going away either, but we haven't got the battle pass yet. This week we get it, right? We'll see how it works. If they put the games in there where you pay your $10 and you get to earn your actual $10, you get to pick and choose where you want to put it, that's fantastic. But if it's not that, that's a problem.
the early days of the loot box.
Battle passes are a monetization approach that give gamers the chance to earn skins they normally wouldn't be able to unlock, but can via real-world payments. Fortnite and Call of Duty Warzone excel here. However, these live service games with battle passes require ongoing maintenance, which requires labor and is not cheap to produce. At least one major game publisher told UK regulators in 2023 that a single game and a major franchise cost them more than $1 billion to release.
What game is that? What game is that it costs $1 billion to release? And then how much do they have to make, right? How many copies do they have to sell? Now, is that a free-to-play game or is that a full-price $70 game? That's freaking crazy, right?
Including development and marketing expenses. Microtransactions and subscriptions are a way for video game companies to recoup those staggering development costs.
Now, I have a question. I would love to see. Now, obviously, we're just regular consumers, so they don't really have to show us this, right? But those of you that are stockholders, okay, I would love to know if I could go to that company and look at a breakdown, right? Let's say Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, and they show me that the marketing and the game itself cost $1 billion. Give me a breakdown, right? I want to see the receipt. Show me the receipt. Because other than that, I don't believe that. Because I can tell you, well, guys, it's really hard to keep these lights on, and if we need to make more money, so I'm going to have to charge you, sorry, per minute. Okay, if you're going to watch this video, I got to charge you per minute. It's only 5 cents. It's only 5 cents to watch per minute, but I have to keep the lights on. It's very expensive. It costs $100 million just to keep this up. The server cost, like, bullshit. Show me the receipts. Show me the receipts that it costs you this much money, that you have to charge $70 for your full game. You got to charge $10 for a battle pass. You have to have a $100 cosmetic in there. You also have the nickel and dime for pennies on the cents to move faster in the game or extra storage. Show me the cost of how many developers you have, what their salaries are. So I don't care about individual salaries, but the total salary count and what it costs that game over a 5-year development cycle, right? And tell me that it's $1 billion. Show us what it costs to make that game. And then if it costs that much, we'll be like, oh, okay. But nobody does that. They also don't have to, by the way. Okay? They don't have to show us shit because you're just buying a $60, $70 game. By the transaction, you walk away. Okay?
Some of the biggest challenges now, I think, is the cost of development is increasing. So if you're making...
Is it increasing? Because Epic is making Unreal Engine 5, and if everyone goes to Unreal Engine 5, it's easier, right? It's saving you costs, hence why they're making the development of Unreal Engine, right? Obviously, because Epic's the good guys, right? They're making it so they can make game development easier, so they don't have to take 5 years to make a game. They can take 3 years to make a game.
A large world, a large open world, and you fill that with very detailed characters, and you want to have the best performance capture in there. That takes a lot of skilled workers. Or if you're developing a game, a live game, and you want to update that every day or every week, that again takes a lot of skilled workers.
Games like
Well, great. I have a question. All right. I worked in the film industry. I work on television series and stuff like that. The budget's really high, right? Well, the offset cost is getting advertisers, right? In like reality world, they eat a bag of chips and they show those chips or drink a Coke and they get sponsorship and they get endorsements and stuff like that to offset the cost, because the return in value of television shows, at least old TV, is ads. Ads paid for that type of stuff, right? Now these companies are taking money from outside sources as well. We know this, okay? They're charging us an arm and a leg as well, higher and higher, because $70, they need to raise the price of the games because the games are getting expensive. But they also have to raise the price of microtransactions because games are getting expensive, right? Everything's getting expensive, but yet, for some strange reason, you have much more successful games that don't cost $500 million to $1 billion coming out that are making boatloads of money. Pal World cost them $6 million. $6 million. $30 game, $35 game. And they sold 25 million copies. Right? So is their next game that come out, they're going to be like, well, we had to pay $500 million. You paid $6 million for the last game. It was a success. Why are you putting the budget up so high?
Fortnite and EA's Ultimate Team require maintenance throughout the course of playing through live services, which are frequent content updates throughout the game's lifecycle. EA's live services brought in a record $1.71 billion in the quarter ending January 30th, but they're costly to manage.
I'm sorry. What did he say there?
Services, which are frequent content updates throughout the game's lifecycle. EA's live services brought in a record $1.71 billion in the quarter ending January 30th, but they're costly to manage, and not all studios are able to bring the live service offerings they had initially planned.
I have a question here. If a game takes 3 to 5 years to make, let's say 5 years to make, but they release it year 3, okay? 5 years to make, but they release it year 3, and now they update that game for the next 2 years to then not support it after the year 5. The budget for the game is already put. They know it was going to take 5 years to make that game, right? But they release it at year 3 and then release the fixes and changes for the next 2 years to make it a live service game, because we respect your time. We hear what you're saying. We're listening. Go to our Discord, okay? They know that this is what's happening, right? We all know that a game that takes 5 years to make, they're releasing it year 3. Hence why Battlefield 2042 literally came out broke, buggy, and unfinished. Literally, Cyberpunk took 7 years to create, and yet it took them additional 3 years to fix it. Okay?
Like PlayStation, but have still found success with certain games, like Helldivers 2.
Well, we're really talking about a live service, a living, breathing game that continues for years and years. Grand Theft Auto 5 launched in 2013. It's still one of the most played games 11 years later, and in 2025,
But that's not the single player game. That's the online version of the game.
Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to come out and be the biggest entertainment launch in history.
The next development to shift the financial footing in gaming is likely to be the shift from owning a copy of the game to being able to use the game through cloud services.
Eventually,
What's that? Did he say cloud gaming?
someday we make it to the point where cloud-enabled devices will provide a good enough experience where people
There's the word. Good enough experience.
are willing to transition over to cloud-based gaming on a more full-time basis. And when that happens, when you don't have the upfront need of a device, then you might see more and more games dropping the premium upfront in order to really expand.
Oh, is he wrong there? He thinks that because they don't need the upfront cost of the consoles, they're going to lower the price of the video game. Oh, no. No. No, 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 no. What they're going to do is they're going to press and push even more because the cloud's expensive. The servers are expensive. We need to raise the price of video games. Are you kidding me? We used to get a physical copy and it cost less than a digital copy. You think the cloud's coming and we're going to get less money? Oh, for God's sakes, this person. Come on now. He doesn't actually believe that, right? Let me rewind that a little bit.
We make it to the point where cloud-enabled devices will provide a good enough experience where people are willing to transition over to cloud-based gaming on a more full-time basis. And when that happens, when you don't have the upfront need of a device, then you
don't need to upfront fee for the device. That's an additional $500 you can spend in microtransactions.
You might see more and more games dropping the premium upfront in order to really expand the appeal of the game.
The appeal of the game is still going to be the same. I find it that they're very naive. I find it that they're very naive to think that they're going to lower the cost of video games because the upfront cost won't be there. Okay. If I can get $50, Kinger did a video a couple weeks ago, okay, about the cake analogy, where if the baker can charge for each chocolate chip, instead of the chocolate chip itself, like the chocolate chip cookie, he could charge for each individual chocolate chip on the thing, what's to stop him? Right? What could stop him? CNBC. CNBC. People talk about the cloud like it's free. Yeah. No, you're going to be charging. Not only are you going to be paying for the higher end internet, right? Because the minimums are going to be lower or higher. Sorry, the minimums are going to be higher for the bit rate, right? And they're going to charge you for that, right? And they're going to take that cost of the video game console and they're going to throw it into the other statement, other section. Don't forget, you're listening to an old man in finance talk about the industry that they said wasn't worth shit. It would not be worth investing in. Right, $185 billion. 83 billion, sorry, 183 billion. I think he meant less upfront games, like $70, more free to play. I know what he meant, Titan. And I'm saying to you, you think they're going to stop charging the $70? You truly believe that there's going to be less $70 games and more free-to-play games? I know exactly what he meant. Higher internet bill with data caps increase for your sub services? Yeah. If you think there's going to be more free-to-play games, sure, there's going to be more free-to-play games. There's also going to be more $70 games, right? And they're going to be charging you an arm and a leg for the service because you'll have no choice. Make the problem, sell the solution. If I make a console with no disk drive, you can no longer buy a hard copy of a game. You can only buy it digital. If I make the console with no console, and you can't even buy a console anymore to buy the digital version of the game, you have to get the cloud. Make the problem, sell the solution. It's always the thing. Games are already expensive. See attached microtransaction. Exactly, Jones. The portion of the video focused on games as service, so more subscriptions, less upfront. I understand how it works of what he said, and I'm saying to him and to you now, if you think they're going to charge less money, right? They're never going to go, they don't go backwards. They don't go backwards. They go up. $70 is going to become $80. Okay? If you think that there's going to be a free-to-play game, more free-to-play games, if you think the next Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man, let's say 4 comes out, it's going to be a free-to-play game, you're sadly mistaken. It's going to be a Spider-Man 4 game that's now $80, and it'll be on the cloud where you don't own it. Even if that were true, if there was less than $70 games, it would be a dystopian nightmare, microtransaction and loot boxes. And this is why we always be what it is, because the feeling, even though the fanboys would say they're competing, but all the game businesses is in together. Absolutely. And I've said this, Eclipse. They're all in it together. They're all in it together.